actually compete with these upper echelon teams.
And the competition is the name of the game, because we talk about teams wanting to get to playoffs and wanting to go as far as they can. And, oh man, you better hope that you don't get TSM or Immortals in the first round or something like that. But honestly, if you're really looking to be a competitor, it doesn't matter who you get in the first round, because you need to be able to compete with anyone. And right now, Envy's struggling to do that.
They really are. And speaking of those playoff teams, they got 2-0'd by CLG, then they lost 2-1 to TSM, they got 2-0'd by Immortals, now they're playing Cloud9. Those are 3 playoff teams that they had to play in a row, so a very tough playoff schedule, and this is going to be their 4th. And we'll see if they can compete against them, because really, you're going to be playing one of those 3 teams that I just mentioned previously. It's going to be, we know Immortals already has a bye locked, but it will be CLG or TSM for Envy, so they are going to have a very tough first round.
Let's see what Cloud9 decides to bring up against him here. Envy banning away LeBlanc, Maokai, and Thresh. Their opponents banning out Elise, Zach, and Caitlyn. First pick Jarvan for Team Envy. Cloud9 now thinking about what they want to bring in response to that. Jarvan, we've seen a lot of play out of him recently.
We really have. And it's interesting to see the Zach still banned away red side by Cloud9. Since it was nerfed pretty heavily in the last patch, a lot of teams are kind of shying away more from it, it seems like. But there is different levels of priority, different teams, placing different value on these champions, on these picks. Another one that it doesn't seem to be there's a lot of agreement on is Cho'Gath, because some teams still seem to really highly prioritize the Cho'Gath. Other teams are willing to let it fall completely through pick and ban.
Well, we're not going to get to see Contractz' Kayn here in game number 1. They have locked in Rek'Sai for the jungle on the side of Cloud9. Also going to go ahead pick up Tristana there for the AD carry position. Remember, Kalista is still open, but they've opted for the Trist instead.
Yeah, the Tristana has, I would say, a lot better scaling, a lot better sieging, and that is one of the reasons why you are seeing it picked so frequently. It's a pretty safe overall choice to fit in really almost any single team composition. You can go fairly aggressive with it. You can have all-in 2v2 lanes where you can see Tristana rocket jumping in. You can also go very supportive style where you want to play Janna or a Soraka or something like this alongside it and try to get to those late game stages, especially in combination with something like an Orianna. Then you can have these really powerful kind of protect the AD carry type compositions. So there's a lot of options alongside it, and with Orianna being the choice here for Jensen, we may see another more defensive support to be paired there, which really could make Nisqy pretty powerful.
And Jensen is so adept at this champion too. This isn't just Orianna picked as a good champion to a team composition. This is Orianna picked as someone who knows how to use this champion to its full capability. Jensen has shown time and again, especially this split, how good he is on Orianna. So him playing it here in game number 1 definitely bodes well for Cloud9.
And it's his most played champion by far. He almost has an 80% win rate on it, 78.6% win rate, 14 plays. His next most played champion is actually Syndra at 7. So certainly a comfort pick there for Cloud9. And they are going to be the ones actually banning away some of the defensive support. So taking away the Janna from Hakuho. It is definitely another champion that can work very well in combination with the Sivir. And Sivir is one of the champions that can become the hyper carry in the late game. It also may kind of hint towards the fact that C9 wants to play some maybe more diving style champions, because Janna is something that can work very well against those. So if you wanted to bring something like a Kled or champions along those lines in the top lane, then maybe taking away that Janna makes some sense.
Janna also one of the best abusers of Ardent Sensor, the item that suddenly has just catapulted itself to the forefront of support itemization. There's been whispers sort of for a while about how good this item is, but now everyone is finally realizing how powerful it is, and Janna being able to get such use out of it. Not surprising to see her banned away. Taric as well. Shen and Gnar banned out by Envy, really focusing that top lane.
She's also quite safe, right? Because of all the disengage that she has. So while there are other supports who can utilize it very, very well, they're not as safe, I would say. Something like a Sona can be very, very vulnerable to these ganks. It is a very squishy champion, but there still are a lot of melee supports in the meta, and it looks like we are going to be seeing Alistar here from Smoothie. And it's only the second time he's actually played this split, but we know how adept he is at these melee supports. He's played quite a lot of Braum. He plays Taric. He plays Blitzcrank, Tahm Kench. So this is something that's certainly in his wheelhouse, although he hasn't shown a lot of it. And it can be a very exciting champion to watch. It's also a pretty interesting interaction with Sivir, because Sivir, you would think, well, you can block the combo with a spell shield, but when you do the headbutt pulverize, you actually block the headbutt and you still get pulverized, so you still basically get knocked up, and it's very difficult for the Sivir to actually be able to really do anything about that combo, and it almost completely nullifies that spell shield.
Well, if one spell shield's not enough, why not use two? Morgana locked in for Team EnVy in their support role, as they also decide to pick up that dirty old Cho'Gath you were talking about before that's able to hit so hard with the true damage late game while also being so tanky.
Yeah, there's a lot of good matchups for Cho'Gath. We have to remember this could be flex still. It could be going to LirA, or in the top lane there to Seraph. And it's looking like it will be Galio as the pick here coming out for Impact. And I think that Cho'Gath can match up quite well into that. You can scale very, very heavily. Yes, you will be able to see Cho'Gath sometimes getting pushed in, and sometimes kind of the roams from Galio are going to be more effective. That's what Impact is going to be looking to do. But Seraph can very easily farm this out, can start to stack up his fee stacks, and become very, very powerful later on in the game.
And I really want to keep eyes, like every series that EnVy plays, on LirA this game, because especially recently, we have seen this team completely fall apart when he is shut down in the early game. When he's not able to get going, the team doesn't really have a way to get themselves into the game. Come mid-game and late game, they're just completely eclipsed. So LirA on this Jarvan needs to be making those plays and getting the team ahead.
Yeah, he certainly does. And Jarvan is a champion that can be very, very effective in the early game. It's one of the champions I think has probably the best level 2 gank because of the actual CC and the engage range offered by that knockup. So Jarvan, you can do very aggressive early pathing, you can do power farming. We're seeing much more defensive style tanky builds coming out of Jarvan these days. Cinderhulk usually into something like a Knight's Vow. So we'll see if he's going to go that route, or if he is going to try to go a more aggressive route with Warrior or Black Cleaver in there and try to take over.
And look at his lanes. If he can manage to hit that flag and drag combo, he's got a Rupture to follow it up in top lane, he's got a Seismic Shove to follow it up in mid lane, he's got a Binding in bottom lane. That is a dream.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of follow-up there for him. That said, Rek'Sai, also another champion that can get involved very early on in the lanes, has powerful ganking, and he's going to have to be wary of the 2v2, because a level 3 Rek'Sai is very strong, and you know, if you go up, you have to be sure not only that you can win the 2v1, but that you can win the possible 2v2, because Contractz is very active in the early game, and despite the fact that he hasn't had a ton of success on Rek'Sai as a champion, he's been very good in recent weeks.
And speaking of recent weeks and kind of that performance Cloud9 has had with their 4-match win streak, this is a team that's also gone on record saying, we feel like we're improving at such a ridiculous rate right now. They talked about how they've identified some weaknesses that honestly were a long time coming in terms of finding out, hey, this is what's wrong with our playstyle, and they think that that's the trick for them getting better a lot quicker, as Hakuho ends up face-checking into Smoothie there. Nisqy now having to run away from Apollo, who lands a couple of auto attacks here onto him. Ricochet going to supply a little bit of extra damage, as shouldn't be any problem getting back in time here.
Yeah, they'll be just fine. And Smoothie trying to kind of push Hakuho back to not allow them to get up and get that vision, but he gets it anyway, plus he's going to be able to get some extra gold from that Spell Thief, so not sure if it was super worthwhile. EnVy either way do get vision on actual both sides of the map, and C9 doesn't get vision on either side, so certainly a pretty big advantage early on for LirA as far as being able to track Contractz, because he's going to know exactly where he's starting. He's going to be able to see him at the Raptors. Nisqy is already in position to try to come up and actually steal away some of the little Raptors from him. And this is actually something that's pretty likely to happen, because with the Winds of War, it gets him so low. So he can actually position, yep, he gets
he got two. That's so big. You get two, the enemy jungler cannot hit level 2 off the chicken camp.
Yeah, even with the big one. So normally you actually get level 2 just off the little chickens, and even if you kill the big one, now you're still level 1. So this means that he has to do a leashless level 1 red buff. That is going to be much slower for him. LirA's already level 2, already on his blue buff, and will be able to have the option to try to either get a super early gank, power clear, or even look to meet Contractz at one of his buffs, because Contractz is certainly going to be at a disadvantage because of this.
And I love seeing the consequences of just those small things in League of Legends, because you get down that early ward on the enemy jungle, it allows your mid laner to time that steal properly, and just getting both of those stealaways might be so big here. LirA grabs his own Gromp. Contractz was honestly pretty audacious going in like that.
Yeah, Contractz, I think, misreading what LirA was doing. My guess is he felt like LirA was going to be taking away his blue. That's the only reason you actually go over there as a level 2 Rek'Sai, because you cannot fight anyone as a level 2 Rek'Sai. You don't even have your tunnel, you don't have your true damage bite. So he's just misreading the situation, essentially. We saw sometimes how that can work out very, very well for our teams. Yesterday, notably, Smoothie was able to really read some jungle pathing very well early against LirA and get a big advantage for his team. And this time, you know, Contractz makes his best guess, but does come up wrong.
Jensen and Nisqy just farming back and forth here. Nisqy going to be pushing those waves around, farming them up. Remember, he is definitely going to have his work cut out for him going up against Jensen's Orianna here. You mentioned the 78% win rate. And it's not just stats, too, because we talk an awful lot about stats, but when he comes in the clutch on this champion in so many different fights, in so many different games, we've seen multi-man shockwaves all the time when Jensen's playing this. We've seen game enders out of him. It's not just the stats, it's the playmaking.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that not only can control lanes, can sometimes get his own advantages very heavily, he's always the late game insurance policy. Whether C9 is ahead, whether they are behind, you have to worry about Jensen on this champion because he can turn around fights. He can take over games, and he has done that very, very often.
Wave pushed up, so he's not going to be doing a whole lot for now as the NV Invasion squad comes for Contractz blue. Scryer's Bloom's going to spy him out, force him off. Ward cleared out by LirA. They got to be aware of that collapse potential.
I mean, yesterday on a blue invade at 4 minutes, they got 4 for 1 against some Mortals.
They're having flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be a little bit nervous about that. Yes, the MV bot lane is here faster, but Nisqy is already pushing out the wave, so they're going to have to go back to bot to actually catch this, and will not be able to continue on that evade. So Contractz delayed a little bit, but eventually will be able to clear up his blue buff, and all things looking pretty even across the board.
Oh, nice engage from Smoothie. Hakuho going to be jumped on and beat down. First blood, Nisqy. Cloud9 with the instant trigger pull.
Really nice engage there from Smoothie. Finds the combo, and Nisqy just jumps right in with that rocket jump, and there is some of the all-in potential that he can use with Tristana. So despite the fact that she is that hyper carry in the late game, also has this early all-in potential, very well executed. They even got the summoners down too.
Yeah, you got the heal from Apollo, you got the flash from Hakuho, you still get the kill. That was just explosive from Cloud9. Smoothie wasn't willing to wait. He said, all right, catch him off guard, here we go. Perfectly done from these guys.
Yeah, this is really well done. Comes out of the bush, so just not enough time to actually react there. Full commitment. The Ignite goes down instantly, so Apollo cannot get that full heal out either. And when you're able to pull off that combo, it's very scary because if you fall behind your Tristana lane, they can be pressuring your turret so heavily. So look for them to try to shove up and really extend that advantage if they can. It's also huge that Sneaky's the one who actually gets that last hit because he's already going to be on that BS sword, going to have a very nice early buy.
Nisqy now having that extra damage means the Tristana ramp game is in effect, starting to scale up, doing what he needs to do, getting towards those mid-game, well, not really even mid-game, mid to late game spikes that Tristana is so well known for. The Black Shield was also available for Hakuho during that, by the way. He just could not react in time because Smoothie jumped on him so quickly.
Yeah, playing around the vision, right? Coming out of the bush, there's very little time to actually react there, and woo, C9
the fans! The Cloud9 fans, that is a passionate fan base, man. 90-10 in terms of that vote, saying Cloud9 is going to walk away with the win here, continue that streak.
I mean, Cloud9 has been winning some fan votes against TSM, which a couple of years ago was something that I felt like never happened.
Yeah.
And now they seem to be often very even or Cloud9 favored. This is a team that has a lot of fans and a lot of very passionate fans. And I think a lot of that is in part to the fact that these guys are active streamers as well. You know, especially Nisqy has so much of a following.
They're personalities. They're people that other people like to root for. And right now, they're on one hell of a comeback swing. This is a team that, remember, was looking to be really struggling around midway through this split. Once we hit about the halfway point where the other teams were going to, where Cloud9 actually was going to Rift Rivals, they're sitting on 6-6, and everybody was like, well, I mean, what are these guys doing here? Are they slipping away from the form that we saw in Spring Split? Are they not going to be one of the top contenders? But now they've bounced back. Now they're coming back into their own a little bit. The question remains, will they be able to compete with the likes of Immortals and CLG and TSM?
Yeah, and that's what we'll have to find out. I mean, I think a big part of the resurgence has been the fact that the newer meta has been fitting the top lane, and the top laner, Impact, has been performing, I think, a lot better than he had been in the earlier stages of the season. For me, that was the big difference between this season and last, was that C9's top lane had been so strong and was really struggling in the summer split. And now, with Impact performing, they're doing so much better. They have that rock in the top lane. They're looking for another all-in.
Here they go again. Apollo now the victim as Contractz come in. Hakuho, black shield onto himself. I don't think it's going to be enough to keep him alive today. Smoothie catching up. Hakuho running away. LirA comes in, but it will not be in time. Now, can they finish him and make it a triple? Level 6 on LirA. In comes Nisqy. Can they turn this one around here? The Cataclysm goes off. Smoothie having a flash away. Jensen makes his way into the fight. LirA still low, but gets away. Cloud9, 2-0.
Yeah, 3-0 now on the scoreboard. They get a lot of summoners out there. The minions are already shoved up. They're going to look for this first turret, and with Envy basing, they should be able to knock it down and get a huge advantage. We'll see if they want to give all that solo gold over to Nisqy, because that could really put him so far ahead.
What a landslide bottom lane for Cloud9. Contractz will stick around, take some of that gold as well. Nisqy doesn't need all of it. He's already got 1 kill and 2 assists. Contractz wants to get a little bit of a bonus going as that jungler. Apollo's? Okay, they're not going to jump on him. They're not worried about this.
That may mean an important item completion or a breakpoint or something for Contractz, but I always do favor actually giving it over to the AD carry in a composition like this, because you have so many ways to enable them with your front line. But anyway, here is the play. Feel like they've caught Smoothie out. The Contractz is already on the way down. Nice combo. No Black Shield. Able to come out again there from Hakuho, so does not have a reaction time 2 times in a row. And then Hakuho flashless because of the first blood means that they can chase in. Contractz executes him. You can see Taliyah looking to make the roam down, and LirA is 6, so they try to turn this around, but Jensen very quickly was on the way, and the Blast Cone was still available, which means he comes in, and he has to retreat, knowing the Shockwave could actually mean 2 more kills.
And Smoothie's flash there was so good because he made sure he was at the very edge of that Cataclysm, so he got over both the Cataclysm wall and the Taliyah ulti wall, completely getting himself out of danger, preventing that return kill from Envy. Very well played by the Cloud9 support this game. Dude has been going off. The first blood engage, the turnaround there.
His top lane, though, they're actually going to look for another kill. We'll see if Seraph can get out. He does have his flash, but may not be enough mobility, and Envy's roaming up.
This is the problem with Cho'Gath. It's so hard to get away. Cloud9 still looking for the kill, a little bit more, and Seraph's still going. Does get taken out, but LirA and Nisqy have made their way in here now. It's 1 for 1 so far. LirA, fail flash, doesn't get himself over the wall. Nisqy still chasing Impact down, but the dunk comes in.
Yeah, he's able to live long enough, and despite not even using his ultimate, they do get 2 kills. C9 is pushing mid lane, though, so the trade still goes their way. They're down a kill, but up a mid lane turret, the most important one. And Impact should be able to defend topside as he has his teleport when he does res. We'll see if Nisqy can actually knock it down before then. Might be able to.
And this is one of the things that's a lot of the times brought up when people are talking about, is Cho'Gath OP? Is this a really good pick? He's so vulnerable because he's immobile.
To be fair, in those situations, he is quite vulnerable, but it's a very tanky champion. And one of the things I would have liked to see out of Seraph is actually just use the Feast. If you're going to die and your team is coming up, you should always use it, even if you're not going to get the execute, because it's putting out that additional damage to then win the fight later on. This is something that Seraph does not do, but it does get taken down, doesn't get that Feast off, was I think trying to hope that he could actually get a stack from it.
Right.
Instead, they're not able to do that, but Envy does clean up a couple kills. They're now looking for a fight again on the bot side. We'll see if they can take down
LirA tries to do the flag and drag combo, instead just gets jerked all the way back. And now there's nothing that he can do.
Nothing that he can do, and they're going to be on to the Mountain Dragon here, looking to knock that one down as well. Cloud9 feeling like they are in full control, looking to maybe get a steal, but Contractz does have Smite, and there's no jungler up for Envy, so C9 will just simply pull it out, eliminate that chance of that steal.
Boomerang blade over the wall, not doing anything. Easy money for Contractz. Cloud9 playing as a coherent unit early on in this game.
Yeah, they really are. And Jensen able to zone out Nisqy.
Nisqy gonna find himself soloed here if he's not careful. Apollo tries to come in, but Jensen's already done the deed. Now they're looking to get even more. TP canceled. Hakuho and Apollo still retreating. Cloud9 still on the chase. It was Seraph who canceled Impact's TP.
LirA is here, though, and Nisqy is not joining the team. We'll see if Envy can try to fight for this. They are falling very far behind.
Smite for Smite, and the patience reset makes it so LirA can't secure, and Contractz gets the red buff instead.
Yeah, Contractz going to be able to take that away. Another thing going C9's way. You would expect that the teleport from Impact got canceled out there by Seraph, so we may see if that was the case, but either way, Nisqy was pushing on the bot side this whole time, and the fact that C9 was not punished, that he didn't join, means he gets the additional farm, he gets the push in the wave, gonna have a great reset for a buy, and everything really is going Cloud9's way. We'll see if they decide to rotate their lanes around, and they are gonna send their bot lane top, it looks like, but we'll watch the fight one more time. Jensen getting zoned out. They see that they actually have him kind of locked down here, so Smoothie roaming up, pops the ultimate to break free, and coming in for the collapse. There's just no way to actually react in this. It was the interrupt there, which does at least save some of the lives of Envy, but still, I mean, it's kind of the best of a bad world since they are really just bleeding out a lot of objectives. They're bleeding out a lot of gold, and we'll see if they can even defend on this topside turret.
Nisqy really has to show respect to the Orianna that has control of that corridor leading into mid lane as well. I mean, Jensen was right there. The ball was in position, but Nisqy walked up to it. You saw in the replay, and that's against Jensen's Orianna. That's not something that I think you're willing to do as a risk.
Yeah, I mean, you try to take that greedy path. He wanted to get back in there to be able to pick up some of that farm that was being lost, but taking that path locks them into a fight that they cannot win, and does cost them even more.
Ooh, nice interrupt. Nisqy almost gets himself comboed down. Good disengage, though.
Yeah, the headbutt there from Smoothie was so good, and Nisqy making soloed out again.
Not again, Nisqy. Jensen with the killing spree.
Nisqy decides to not even blow the flash there, but Jensen gets another solo kill, and he is getting very far ahead here. While on top side, the bot lane going to be looking to pressure up on this turret. Galio has already rotated down to bottom, so Seraph is going to go down to match, but this is something where they can actually look to set up a dive because they're taking away the blue. There's 4 members of Cloud9 up here. This could be dangerous for Envy.
Things are getting very dangerous very quickly for Team EnVy as a whole. Contractz finds his way towards Apollo, forces out the Sivir ulti. That being used to disengage means Contractz will back away, but now with that ulti down, that's one sigh of relief that Cloud9 can have should a team fight break out. Hey, they don't even have that thing to fight us with. Let's go ahead and push up.
That makes you play that much more scared. C9 doesn't want to risk executing that dive right now, though, so they are going to retreat back to the Rift Herald. There's a lot of Envy members in the area, though. You can see LirA moving over here. Taliyah does have ultimate available, so they may look to fight this. They are falling quite behind and might feel like they need to make a move. So TP's coming in. They are going to go for the fight.
Here we go. Sneaky disengaging, jumping himself away. LirA trying to go in all the way. Rift Herald down to 1,000 HP. Smoothie's got the ulti pop. Blue team takes the Herald. But now LirA's going to find himself caught out. Impact there into the back lines. Contractz, kill number 1. As C9 now falls backwards. A big shockwave finds 3. And EnVy is eradicated from the river. 1 for 4 so far, and Cloud9 finds their 15-minute ace.
They get the ace, and they're going to be able to push both top and mid off this. They're going to take even more, so despite the fact that LirA wins that Smite battle, C9 comes out massively ahead, and Jensen already so strong, completing these early items, hit a huge shockwave that really decimated EnVy in that fight.
That's that playmaking we were talking about. Yes, he's got numbers. He's up 40 CS than his opponent. He's 6-0-2, but he also shows up in those moments. That's what makes this Orianna such a threat. And Cloud9, what a fight against EnVy.
All right, so we'll watch it one more time. Watch the headbutt from Smoothie. Hakuho laid on the Black Shield again, and this has been happening almost every time this game. So headbutt out of the flag and drag. He has been so good with these disengages from Alistar. He did it on the top side, but some criticism has to be thrown Hakuho's way when it keeps happening. His Black Shields have not been on point. That turning around that disengage, keeping Nisqy safe was so big, and then look at the 3 members, they group up, and the triple shockwave from Jensen, catching them all on the edge. You have to be so good about tracking that Orianna ball, or Jensen will catch you like this in the team fights, and EnVy gonna fall prey to him once again. Jensen gonna be on 2 items with the upgraded boots, and Nisqy knows it. They are gonna be in tough this game.
And you can't blame the team for trying to take a fight there because, as you said right before it, they were falling behind. You can't just concede the entire map and expect to play a game that you have any chance in. That's playing not to lose. It's not playing to win.
Yeah, Nisqy may get run down here now. Contractz.
Flash keep him alive, though. Look at the damage from Jensen, and
That's
even Impact in the last fight. Impact did 2.3K.
Galio has some pretty good AoE, and we're going to see top turret go down, so the gold lead going to extend that much further. But, I mean, Jensen is at such a ridiculously strong point at this stage in the game. He completed his Leandries and his Sword Boots off that fight, so he's on 2 items, double spell pen, has a lot of CDR. If he gets involved in a fight in any way, he will be crushing Envy. Envy essentially has to be able to burst him out right off the bat to have any chance in a fight. But then even Nisqy is quite strong, and Contractz is getting strong, and it's really hard to actually access the carries when there's this big 3-man front line.
Yeah, Envy's going to have to find some sort of way to insta-give someone with a Cho'Gath ulti or a Nisqy combo or something along those lines, but it just is so much easier said than done.
It really is. Cloud9 is essentially running what is, in my opinion, one of the very easiest comps in the game as far as composition style, where you have 2 threats and you have this massive front line. If you're already doing well, it's so hard to lose team fights because you have to get through all these carries and there's so much CC and there's so much disruption. Your carries are able to free fire and have a lot of safety. When these comps fall apart, though, is if your carries fall behind, your team has no damage, and then your team fight is pretty bad. In this stage, though, we know Jensen is fed, Sneaky's doing great, and they're looking for a dive.
And the whole team's coming bottom for a party. Nisqy drawing turret aggro, means they have to back away for a moment. Rupture fired off, doesn't find the ultimate. Weaver's wall going up, but the turret is going down, and now Seraph is the target. Taunt comes through, there comes your knock-up, more damage poured into the front line, and he won't last long. A godlike Jensen takes him out as Cloud9 in danger of losing their jungler now brings in the cavalry. The hero's entrance keeps him alive and makes sure it's not going to be a 1-for-1 as Apollo and Hakuho will hold the line, clear out that minion wave, and halt C9's advance only for a moment.
Yeah, there is a Rift Herald down mid lane, though. LirA very intelligently dropped that before he came down to the bot side, so fighting back, getting that turret out, is pretty smart. Actually, excuse me, Nisqy was the one who actually dropped the Rift Herald. Either way, a good play from MB to try to at least get something back there and claw their way back in, because it's often actually really tough when you are losing this badly to get turrets with the Rift Herald, because the winning team usually has enough time to respond. So the fact that they have picked up, turret on the top side thanks to Apollo slip pushing, now this turret in the mid lane thanks to that Rift Herald, at least gives them a little bit of hope.
But that hope will quickly fade unless they can find themselves some sort of amazing fight, or Cloud9 ends up putting themselves in a spot where they throw heavily, down 6,000 gold 20 minutes in, 13-3 in the kill count.
I mean, unless it's pretty much a clean ace and a Baron, it has to be a lot of fights in a row, because they are so far behind, and I think that their composition is so much harder to execute than that of C9 from this stage when you have Tristana already on 2 items with so much protection, and Jensen so powerful, plus a lot of engage, and they're going to be looking for more fights.
Here we go again. Seraph's supposed to be the front line, but Cloud9 has no qualms with going in directly onto that Cho'Gath. TP from Impact there off to the side just in case he needs to make a hero's entrance. He won't have it for the next few seconds still, though.
C9 may just start up the Baron. They have double Mountain Dragon. I think that's going to be the call. Start it up, make Envy come to you, and then turn for the fight, because you cannot just stay at the Baron and fight it at 21 minutes in. It will do a lot of damage. We'll see when they turn.
Smoothie popping the ulti immediately at the start here. Weaver's wall fired off. Baron under 3K, but Cloud9 has decided to go for the fight. Impact, flash taunt onto 2. LirA the target. Nisqy with the auto attack firing time. Contractz grabbing the kill onto Hakuho as well. Seraph having to run away. Contractz taken very low. Hero's entrance again to keep him alive. Legendary Jensen as Contractz falls. It's a 2-for-1, but the shockwave finds the carries, and a double kill for this Orianna yet again.
Catching both the carries there from Jensen. Amazing flash shockwave at the end of the fight. Great patience from him, and C9 get 4 kills. They're going to go right back to the Baron, and despite not having a jungler, they will start it up. They have to keep LirA away, though, because he is on the map. Doesn't look like he's even going to be able to get there in time, and Cloud9 has all but locked up this one.
22-minute Baron after killing all but a couple members of the enemy team. 10,000 nearly, the gold lead. It's going to be a push towards the base coming up next, and honestly, I don't know how Envy holds.
I honestly think they can end with this Baron. It's a very high chance. They have such strong diving with Alistar and Rek'Sai and the Galio, and they can really siege down these turrets. They may want to play it a bit more safely, look to knock down multiple inhibitors, look to collect the outer turrets, and just extend their gold lead, and that is also a very viable option. But if Cloud9 wants to get aggressive, there's a high chance they close it out.
And Seraph needs to be looking out as well, because they have started the past couple of fights jumping onto this guy just because he has no way to get away.
Yeah, and when the team is actually not strong enough to fully dive, with this essentially dive composition where you pop the Sivir ult, you throw in your Jarvan, you throw in the Cho'Gath, I mean, Cho'Gath is just going in, and then he's like, hey, guys.
All right.
Team, where's the team?
Throw a couple question mark pings down there, and everything's good to go. Cloud9 good to go in the top lane, pushing down the tier 2 very, very rapidly. That'll be turret number 6 for them. All that's left is the enemy base.
I mean, they just knocked down 2 of the last outers in a couple seconds with this buff, and now the Baron buff enabling them to go straight for the inhibitor turret. It's gonna get knocked down very fast. It's gone.
Impact just channeling the taunt there on the front. Seraph backing away with the black shield to keep himself safe. Orianna ball thrown down right next to that inhib. If Envy tries to defend it, they're going to be caught out. Nisqy now jumped on Smoothie again with the initiation. And Jensen legendary as Envy is routed. The game is over. Sneaky is on a killing spree. And Impact grabs the inhib. All that's left is to put the last few shots into Envy's remaining structures. Nexus turret number 1 falls. Nexus turret number 2 is the target until Jensen and Smoothie again go in. Jensen decided to pad those stats just a little bit harder as LirA can't find his way back into the spawn platform. Nexus turret number 2 hacking, but a double kill for Jensen in the enemy fountain. The Nexus will go down pre-25 minutes. And in game 1, Azael, Cloud9 makes a statement.
Jensen just 100-0s Apollo in the Nexus to finish that game off. 12-0-5 for him on the Orianna. And oh my God, what a performance from Cloud9. They were watching Immortals yesterday, and they're saying anything you could do, I could do better.
We can do it just as well, if not better. That was such an amazing show from everyone on the team. Contractz going in, Impact making sure he was right there with him, protecting him. Smoothie's constant engages, Sneaky's damage. I'm not even going to put Jensen in this list because the whole game was a highlight reel for him.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by Smoothie as well. In particular, he really stood out to me. Yes, Jensen took over this game, but I think the Alistar play from Smoothie was so good, so quick on actually disengaging, knocking LirA out of his flag and drag almost every single time in the team fights, finding the critical engages, allowing them to push the pace, great vision control. Really, C9 can be proud of this game as a whole. They're playing a playoff team, and they made it look extremely easy, and this is the kind of form you want to see going into these tough matchups that they're going to have, is they have Dignitas in the first round.
That's what we talked about, right? When you have a playoff team versus a playoff team, it's kind of a preview of things to come. But for more on that commanding victory, we're going to send things down to Dash and our analysts.
Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. Commanding is one word for it. There's plenty of other crushing words that you can use. Demolish, a clinic, any of these things. A great game at that. For Cloud9, this is exactly the way they want to be coming into Week 9 in terms of form when it comes to the way they're facing up against playoff teams. You mentioned that more recently, the success they've had has been against teams that they're not necessarily going to be facing in the playoffs. All right, well, here's one of your playoff teams, albeit the lowest ranked playoff team, but you come in and you put up a performance similar to what we saw out of Immortals yesterday. Things are looking good.
I mean, it's just such a crazy game out of them where they are able to play the patch very well, and we get to see once again that people just can't target mid laners. So Jensen gets his hands on Orianna, that's his comfort champion. Top lane gets pinched as a result, but there's so many tanks up there now, he's able to take Galio last. Envy were put in a weird spot where they weren't sure if they wanted to put the Jarvan or the Cho'Gath up there most likely. They go with the Cho'Gath, it's hard to criticize it.
Yeah, the only thing is, like, if you swap it, Jarvan's like a better lane matchup, and then the Galio doesn't get to build Abyssal Mask first item and help Jensen out. But if you put the Cho'Gath up there, pretty easy to gank, but does have a little bit of kill pressure when he hits level 6. But that's kind of the difference.
All right, so a bit of stuff around champion select. Really, though, it came down to the play. And Smoothie in the bot lane put together some really impressive engages on that Alistar. Again, showing that if you put him on a playmaker, he is willing to make the big play.
And these have to be fast because it's black shield and there's a Sivir spell shield as well. So you have to sit in that bush. You have to have those snap engages. The Sivir, isn't really that great of a matchup into the Alistar because the headbutt pulverize. You will always eat the pulverize afterwards. But right here, Smoothie turns it around, and they weren't expecting this, even though they have full vision of it. Hakuho was trying to reward the bush and doesn't black shield, even though he does have it up there.
Yeah, multiple 2v2 kills for that duo of the bot lane. And this is a big thing because so typically when we talk about C9, we're looking at it's the Jensen show and how does the rest of the team support him. When you're coming into these final weeks and you're looking to be in top form, I think top form for C9 is, yes, a well-performing Jensen. but the supporting cast needs to step up to his level in a sense.
That's the big thing, is there always needs to be one guy, and recently it's been Contractz, and Smoothie has started coming back with all the playmaking supports now. We've seen him on Terex starting to step up, and here on Alistar has a huge game around the bot lane early on. They get the turret after that play, and that's kind of what gives them their first gold lead. But then, like you said, it's the Jensen show. He's like, don't forget about me, guys.
Always comes back to the Jensen show. Let's roll a couple clips here because this guy is solo killing people multiple times over throughout the game, landing some of the most integral shockwaves.
Yeah.
A 12-0-5 scoreline. Are you kidding me?
It's ridiculous, and that's a 24-minute game. So he accelerated the pace so heavily with those solo kills into the team fights immediately afterwards. And Jensen's just team fight fundamentals as a mid laner are so damn good. He is so aggressive in the lane phase as well. He's not getting like gigantic CS advantages over people. This game he did, but in general, he just knows how to play the lane and the team fights with the lowest risk possible to him.
Right, and I mean, like, shockwaves like that are why he gets player of the games. Not like because he's keying it off of a great engage by Smoothie. And Smoothie played this team fight really well with a couple nice headbutts, but at the end of the day, it's a massive, unassisted, basically three-man shockwave that wins them this fight definitively. And later on, there's a team fight where Impact on Galio's running away is like, this fight's over. And Jensen flashes forward, is like, no, I'm getting 2 more kills. Gets another ultimate. This guy is such a playmaker, gives himself monster leads.
Yeah, and so Jensen's just been performing incredibly well the entire split. And coming into playoffs, everybody's eyes are on him because right now he seems like that pivotal member of Cloud9, and we're looking for him in those clutch moments as it moves forward.
Yeah, but the honorable mention goes to Smoothie, and this is where I do want to expand the conversation to the rest of Cloud9. Again, we're looking at these other members to step up to the plate, and it was interesting, I think it was last week, Mark, we were looking at player of the games, and we actually noticed Nisqy, maybe not with this player of the game here, but Nisqy actually holds the most player of the game awards on the team, which makes it so interesting that we're constantly talking about the team as relying on Jensen. To a degree, I feel like we've gotten to this place of expectation that Jensen just has to so wildly overperform for us to actually give him a nod of player of the game.
If you just look at this game, Smoothie was like this close to getting it. If he didn't get all those solo kills, and if those team fights weren't his own plays, if let's say they were following up on Smoothie engages, he never would have got the player of the game this time. Like, he has to play so well to pull them away from his teammates when they're stepping up.
Well, I also feel like player of the games is going to have a little bias here because of the fact that when the team loses, Jensen has like an 8-1-2 scoreline, right? So when they lose, he's the best performing member on the team.
Right.
When they win, somebody else has to step up to assist Jensen because he's always going to perform at a very consistent rate, even in their losses.
Right.
So when they win, we look at the person who's not Jensen and go, they won because he stepped up. And, you know, Jensen's still doing his thing. So the person will more often than not actually get favored in that.
On the side of Envy, struggles continue here. Again, they're looking to prove themselves to these other top-tier teams. They've got to instill a little bit of fear into the opposition coming into playoffs and at the same time bolster their own, you know, mentality moving into these best-of-5 series. This is another knock to that mentality. How do they recover from this? What's the solution for Envy?
It feels like their bot lane has slowly started slipping down, you know, the kind of rankings, if you will, where at the start of the split, it's like, wow, Paul looks like he's one of the best ones out there. Hakuho is really stepping up. And their bot lane has been very, very quiet ever since they've kind of gotten off some of their comfort picks when they were getting the Caitlyn's and the Kalissas. And it feels like now that they're forced onto the Sivers and stuff, it doesn't look quite as good.
Yeah, I feel like Apollo is still actually very good. I just felt like Hakuho that game, he got shut down early, blew his flash, and then the next time he was going to reward the bush, and then they had already given up 3 kills by the time that he had really been able to counterplay Smoothie. So I feel like that was Smoothie really hard out playing Hakuho, and not so much Apollo in that sense, because Apollo's kind of like letting the support dictate the bottom lane for the most of it, and then when they get to the mid lane, he's able to kind of pop off.
Well, Envy looking for 2 wins in a row here. We're taking a quick break. When we return, though, it's Game 2 between Cloud9 and Team Envy. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the North American LCS.